3,000 square meters of sail, 4 masts, 108 meters long. Elegant, swift, a thoroughbred. Heir to a tradition of vessels which sailed the seas in the last century, Starflyer is the greatest clipper of all time. Driven by the trade winds, Force 5 toward the Windy Isles, point of departure for our cruise. Destination, Saint-Martin. On the Dutch part of the island, they say Sint-Maarten. Philipsburg seems to be the capital of a land in which every sign says shopping and tax-free. But where is this bus taking us along Highway 7? Where else but to Grenadines, in the French part of the island on the Caribbean. The coconut palms sway in the gentle breeze. The little painted houses. The aroma of spices in Colombo. This can only be the Antilles. It's Sunday, drawn by salsa rhythms and the cries of men and combat cocks. I head towards the pit.
Paris, beaucoup d'argent. A lot of money?
Yeah.
How much?
Any amount, $200, $300, $400, $500.
How many fights are there?
It depends. Sometimes 5, 6, or even 7 fights.
So, how do you know who is the winner?
You're here. See for yourself.
Saint-Martin is the smallest island in the world to be divided between 2 states. 8 kilometers as the crow flies between Philipsburg and Grenadines. Colombier, one last question before returning to Philipsburg to embark on Starflyer.
On est très près de la frontière hollandaise, hein? Ouais. Il y a un mur en pierre qui...
There's a stone wall going all the way along it.
Il y a les frères et
There are
sœurs.
brothers and sisters on both the French and the Dutch
C'est
side.
pareil, quoi.
That's all the same.
Good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen. This is my first task to do is introducing the staff. Okay, here we go. This is Frank, Chief Officer from Holland. This is Werner from Austria, Hotel Manager. Chief Engineer from Belgium, Luis. Victor from Indonesia. Chief Steward. Herman Metredi, Indonesia. The main person aboard, the cook, the chief cook from Jamaica.
In full sail, leaving Saint-Martin to the port side, the Starflyer heads directly south.
What is the name of the island where we arrive now?
The island is called Sabar, and it belongs to Holland. And it's one of the highest islands of the whole Caribbean. It's 940 meters high. We have left St. Martin in the morning at 7 o'clock, sailed with all sails on this course down here. Now we have taken in the square sails, which enables us to come closer into the wind. We come around from the west side and then steer a easterly course to come into the leeward part of the island. Enjoy. This is paradise.
Saba, a paradise, but for who? The fauna? The flora, and the islanders. The islanders live at the foot of a volcano that's been dormant for 5,000 years, hidden in the heart of a little 13 square kilometer garden. Saba is green. Saba is a lasting paradise.
Long time ago it was named Lebrock Town. Long years ago it was Lebrock Town. Yeah. So that was the capital. And then they changed it to the bottom.
Why?
Oh, I don't know. You have to go down in history. Yeah.
Leaving the bottom, whose black origins melt into the dark depths of time, following the cement road that the inhabitants have graven into the slopes of the volcano. We wind above the jagged coastline, glittering beneath the sun. We arrive in Windward Side, nestled in the heart of luxuriant vegetation, white, mindful of its roots.
Can you explain the origin of the name Saba?
The name Saba, or Saba as most Europeans call it, it was probably discovered on a Saturday by Christopher Columbus, which is why it's called Saba, from the Spanish word sábado. Good afternoon. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you, Jennifer.
Thank you. It's placed out like a typical old Saba home.
Three weeks or 4 weeks with the lyrical crew. Where do you learn? Here in Saba?
Yeah, school. When I went to school and then home from my mother and my sisters. I love to do it and I love to meet all of you folks too, but not to take my picture.
To characterize Saba, what will be this word?
One word, paradise. Paradise. It is definitely a paradise. My ancestors have been here since 1629, and I'm still here. And I hope that my great-grandchildren will still be here. It's really a wonderful place to grow up in, to live, and to be a part of. So I would describe it as paradise.
Oh yeah, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want this one, 1, 2, and 13.
I know you put that off and you forget about the 9.
Right.
After Saba the Peaceful, Saint-Barth the Star. A sailor drops the Starflyer's anchor to the bottom of the Saint-Barth Bay. These adventurers of the Zodiac, are they perhaps on the trail of a fabulous treasure abandoned in the depths of the bay in the 17th century by some Breton pirate?
Just take the regulator in your mouth, put some air into your BCD so you will float when you land in the water. Just put one hand, your fingers on your mask, the palm on your regulator, and one hand on your neck, and just roll backwards. Okay, look at me. Okay.
It's French, and it has a certain atmosphere, a very pleasant atmosphere here on this island.
A town called Gustavia, the only vestige left here by the Swedish. The same Swedes who, in selling the island to the French in 1877, could never have guessed that this little cactus-covered rock would one day become the star of the Antilles, Saint-Barth.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
What are you showing us? Are these recent canvases?
These are recent paintings. These are Saint Barth houses, old style as we say. And those that you see there just opposite the doorway are what we call the anti-cyclones of the island. They are very low houses with walls about 80 centimeters thick, built with rock lime and clay whose roof are very, very low, so that the wind can get underneath. There's no way the wind can take the roof off. And this is one of my favorites. It shows the island's coconut palms, the sun and the Caribbean.
Saint-Barth, 24 square kilometers of arid land, a free port, and a fashionable island.
Voilà.
Surrounded by the most beautiful beaches in the Caribbean, white sand, emerald sea, tanning, idling, Saint-Barth is the Antilles of our dreams. According to tradition, the pirates of yesteryear have become today's fishers of crayfish.
A few years ago, we used to make a different kind of hoop net. Now we've changed our technique. The catch seems better, even though there are fewer crayfish.
Fewer than before?
Uh-huh, fewer than before.
Do you fish every morning?
Every day, at 4 in the morning.
What would you be likely to catch in a normal day?
Some have caught between 30 and 40 in such hoop nets.
Approaching St. Kitts, the atmosphere is suddenly tense. Passing the cannons of Brimstone Hill, the Gibraltar of the Caribbean, the captain seems pensive. Perhaps he takes himself for that celebrated buccaneer, Francis Drake, or has he seen the ghost of Henry Morgan, the famous pirate? Scan the horizon though he may, the captain spies only coconut palms and parasols. Only a pelican takes flight upon the Starflyer's arrival. Today, under the black flag, the pirates of Frigate Bay tell other tales.
It is a paradise, because I lived in Canada for 2.5 years, and it was nothing like this. When I left here and went there, it was mainly for school. But then after a while, you start missing the beach. So I decided to come back. There's no place like the sun on your skin, warm weather, watching the bikinis go by. It's always good.
Right to the tip of St. Kitts, the roadway winds between the Atlantic and the Caribbean.
Well, I think I like this end of the island most, the Southeast Peninsula, because it's quiet, it's different, so I think this area is my most favorite place. the tropical rainforest that we are heading to, it's about 8 to 10 miles away from here.
The fields of sugarcane no longer stretch this far. Imperceptibly, nature claims them back, condemning the ruins of the old distilleries to oblivion.
Obviously, when Columbus came in, all right, most of what you see was here and much more. The whole island was practically covered in lush tropical rainforest. Okay, right here, this little tree here with all the spikes you see here is what we call the sandbox tree. Here, very, very sharp spikes, okay, the sandbox. Locally, we give it our own local name. We call it the monkey no climb. We see our vines growing, the typical Tarzan Jane vines here. Very, very thick in this area. Ecotourism comes to light, okay? This is what we are trying to attract. The type of tourist who does not come just for the beaches, but who could come and see this probably just for the first time and appreciate what it is all about.
In Basse-Terre, everything harks back to England. The circus, which takes itself for Piccadilly, the phone boxes. And just to prove it, as night gently falls, this music.
I don't know, you'll have to ask them. I'm just thinking exactly what they're...
Make sure you capture that expression.
The winds have risen, 20 knots. Starflyer heads for Antigua.
This is a beautiful place and it's usually one of our highlights. We'll be seeing you back again at 4 o'clock in good shape and having seen and learned a lot. Thank you.
The days when Antigua lived off sugarcane are long gone. Today, tourism is king. And long gone are the days when English ships came to unload bricks and stones for the building of English harbor.
You're going back?
See you later.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You go back to the beach,
Yeah,
now.
we go to the beach?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Forgetful, now the bay harbors but pleasure craft.
Now just below us here where we have those yachts is the main headquarters of the park, the Nelson's Dockyard. This was named after Horatio Nelson. It was of much advantage to the British folk. Now with their ships hidden away back in the harbor here, anyone passing along the coastline would not have seen or suspected anything.
Now, this building was built in 1855 in honor of Horatio Nelson. Horatio Nelson was the admiral who was in charge of the British naval fleet in the Caribbean for a short period of time between 1774 and 1786-87. Now, here we are in the copper and lumber store building. This is a perfect example of an 18th century Georgian naval castle. Today, it is now being used as a hotel with 14 lovely suites. And the unique thing about it is that each suite was named from an English ship that took part in the Battle of Trafalgar.
Forget the uniforms. Flowers have taken the place of stripes. Is the Starflyer on holidays?
I read it better than yesterday. Yeah, but I bet it's not because it's calm on here. Yeah.
You want to be nervous now?
It's holidays for you today? Oh, it's not really a holiday. It's a nice day, great day, but we miss every day like this.
Following our guide, we get off the beaten track, crossing the palm forests along the white sandy beaches to discover the real Antigua.
Travis?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Yeah.
All Saints? With some village.
We're in a village called Boland. It's in the south of Antigua. Boland is the village where I was born. I like my village, and I like the people from my village very, very much.
Steering for the Saints, it's excitement aboard the Starflyer. Macau, Las Vegas. No, just a crab race.
I'll get it. The first crab, whose body is completely over the edge of this circle right here, is the winner.
Number 5, the Belgian bum. Oh,
Belgium, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you trust that, huh?
That's the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
We got the new number 4. Number 2 looks like he's galloping for the home. Number 3 looking good. Look at number 4.
Having sailed slowly up the Whale Strait, the Starflyer drops anchor in the Bay of Saints, one of the world's most beautiful bays.
Hi, Mom.
Descendants of Breton sailors or Poitou farmers, the Saints, called Saintois, like to speak about their island and their work, like Monsieur Cassin-Nicole, Fort Napoleon's gardener.
Well, you have mother-in-law's cushions, yakers, forkriers, and just there, what's called the English head. You find quite a lot around the Saints Coast. The kids and the goats have eaten a fair amount, so now it's under protection. English soldiers wear a kind of headgear in front of Buckingham Palace. As it's red with red pompons, it looks a little like that. Could be the origin of the name.
It's a male. It's according to the crest. The male's crest is much bigger than the female's.
Can you tell us a little about the whole boat?
I don't know about plastic, but I know about plywood. The ribbing and the gunnels are made of pear tree wood and the shell in plywood.
How do you call that hat you're wearing?
Salaco.
What does salaco mean?
It means the hat of the saints people. It's what most people wore in the past, but now hardly anyone does.
We visited the cemetery. We saw tombs made with conch shells.
In the past, there was a lot of conch here, but now there are far less. They're caught further out with nets. Conch shells are put on every tomb.
Near the pier, we come across the Tourment d'Amour cellars.
It's a Saints specialty?
Yes, you only find it in Saints. Here we have coconut, banana, guava, and pineapple.
Du lait Nestlé, quelques
Milk,
gouttes d'amandes amères, quelques gouttes
bitter
d'essence de vanille,
almond,
un petit peu d'eau.
vanilla essence,
Il n'y a
and
pas
water.
beaucoup de clients, pas.
Dommage.
A houseboat dreaming of departure. The pier. The waiting. Coming from nearby Guadeloupe, a boat enters the harbor. Leaving the town to its newfound liveliness, we return aboard the Starflyer.
The passenger is not being treated as a customer, as a passenger. He is part of the ship. He is in some way part of the crew, is being treated first class, but we don't want to entertain him during all day. We don't want to give him fun, we want to give him enjoyment. So not only for his body, but his soul as well.
With the sailors busying themselves on the bridge and climbing into the rigging, the Starflyer in full sail leaves the Saints archipelago in the gently fading twilight. A few meters below in the dining room, they're putting the finishing touches to the captain's evening meal.
Smartly looking.
Thank you.
Many things have changed on board since that morning the Starflyer left Saint-Martin. People have gotten to know and appreciate one another. Faces light up with pleasure, even when the crew sing, albeit a little out of tune.
Good. Good morning. How are you this morning? Thank you. This pistol for you. Thank you very much.
Can I have a price of this?
Proud moment for me was last night's captain's dinner when the crew were singing in a group as a choir, and I enjoyed watching them, and watching the passengers enjoyed likewise. This was, I have to admit, my best moments during this trip.
The crew and the passengers we've really enjoyed. They're wonderful people. The captain provides a really good how do you want to say it, an intimate type atmosphere. He's very approachable, and just everybody has done a wonderful job out here so far. We're very happy.
You will have finished before the start flyer leaves the Navy?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How late is it now at this moment? Is it? Well, we're not sure. You're giving us a hard choice now, the boat or the finish the golf game.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nevis lies just 3 kilometers from St. Kitts. Though they're both part of the same state, here everything is different. A discreet charm inherited from another age, a natural nonchalance. The serenity here invades us little by little.
In the background now, the birthplace of Alexander Hamilton. As many of you may or may not be aware, Alexander Hamilton was one of the founding fathers of the United States. What we are seeing now is the Bath Hotel. Interesting enough, this is probably the first hotel in the Caribbean. It was originally built in 1778.
This river flows straight from the mountain and goes straight to the sea. When the bath is closed, we usually have our bath here in the river. Use it for rheumatic pain, neck pain, all sort of pain. You feel good when you come out.
When I know some wonder, consider all the works thy hands have made. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Against the backdrop of an extraordinarily beautiful sunset, the Starflyer leaves Nevis. Across the night, she heads for St. Martin. On board, the party's in full swing. Tomorrow, the cruise will have ended, leaving all but souvenirs. Saint-Martin is the smallest island in the world to be divided between two states. 8 kilometers as the crow flies between Philipsburg and Grand-Case. Colombier, one last question before returning to Philipsburg to embark on Starflyer.
On est très près de la frontière hollandaise, hein? Ouais. Il y a
Yeah, there's a stone wall going all the way along it.
Il y a les frères et
There are
sœurs
brothers
sur
and
la
sisters
partie
on both
hollandaise ou
the
la
French
partie
and
française,
Dutch
c'est
side.
pareil, quoi.
That's all the same.
On the Dutch part of the island, they say Sint-Martin. Philipsburg seems to be the capital of a land in which every sign says shopping and tax-free. But where is this bus taking us along Highway 7? Where else but to Grand-Case, in the French part of the island on the Caribbean. "3,000 square meters of sail, 4 masts, 108 meters long." Elegant, swift, a thoroughbred. Heir to a tradition of vessels which sailed the seas in the last century, Starflyer is the greatest clipper of all time. Driven by the trade winds, Force 5 toward the Windy Isles, point of departure for our cruise. Destination, Saint-Martin. The coconut palms sway in the gentle breeze. The little painted houses. The aroma of spices in Colombo. This can only be the Antilles. It's Sunday. Drawn by salsa rhythms and the cries of men and combat cocks, I head towards the pit.
Paris, beaucoup d'argent? A lot of money? Yeah. How much? Any amount. $200, $300, $400, $500.
How many fights are there?
It depends. Sometimes 5, 6, or even 7 fights.
So, how do you know who is the winner?
You're here. See for yourself.